Evening, everyone. Thank you for coming and making it out on this treacherous, sometimes treacherous evening. So maybe staying at home would have been a cool deal. Wise choice, you guys, wise choice. Yan Tao and Xu Feng were snowed in on Tortoise Mountain. Day after day, Yan Tao slept while Xu Feng sat up and meditated. On the third day, Yan Tao sat up too and said, "Get some sleep. What do you think you are, a roadside shrine?" Xu Feng touched his chest and said, "My heart isn't at peace. I can't fool myself." Yan Tao gave a great yell. "Don't you know that the family treasure doesn't come in through the gate? Let the teaching flow out from your breast to cover the earth and the sky." Xu Feng was suddenly enlightened and cried out, "Today, Tortoise Mountain has finally awakened." Awakening, enlightenment. We call it all kinds of things. Awareness. We're aware. I mean, here we are. We're all sitting in our rooms respectively, and we're being aware of something. That is the awareness of being, right? We're aware. That can be called enlightenment. It can be called awakening. So this last week was Rahatsu session at Minnesota Zen Meditation Center. Now Rahatsu technically means 12-8. The 12th month, the 8th day is Bodhi Day. It's Buddha's Enlightenment Day, which is tomorrow. And you can see that we're not in session. So we had it a week early. And some people are having it right now. Some people in the cities are having it now. People all over the world celebrate, Buddhists all over the world celebrate this day, Rohatsu, 12-8. And so I want to honor that a little bit by kind of hedging my talk around awakening, around being a Buddha, because we don't really believe it. We don't believe that we're already Buddha. There's no way we're already Buddha. Why are we here in the Zendo if we're already Buddha? I mean, what the heck? Why do I go to class when I already know this stuff? Well, there's knowing and then there's knowing. So during Rahatsu session, on the last day of the session, which in some places is the 8th, we have a ceremony. And during this ceremony, we bring out gifts. We change out Mahapajapati, who's on the altar, and we put Buddha up there. That's the only time that Buddha is actually on the main altar. We usually have some other bodhisattva, some other archetype of wisdom or compassion or something like that that inspires us throughout the year. Because Buddha, yeah, we all know Buddha. Buddha's over here in the Buddha hall. So we put Buddha on the altar and we give him some gifts. We give him some food, we give him something to drink, and we chant this record of transmission of light. It was written by Keizan Jokin, who was a descendant of Dogen, not a descendant, but a student of Dogen, who started the Soto Zen lineage that we are part of here in Japan in the 1200s. So what I'd like to do is, it's a couple of pages. It's a little long, but what it does, it covers a lot of stuff. It covers the historical Buddha Shakyamuni, the person that he was a prince in India. He was raised in a really sheltered life. He escaped the walls and he saw sick people, he saw dying people, he saw old people, these for the first time. He'd never seen these in his life before. And then he saw a monk, a religious man. And he was really frightened by the sick and the dying and the aging. And then the religious man sparked, oh, here's a person at peace with all of this. What the heck is going on? There must be more. So he actually left the palace and started this life. And this kind of, it doesn't document it, it kind of paraphrases a lot of what may or may not have actually happened. But it's a nice story. And then there's some commentary about it. And the commentary kind of toward the end is asking us to take a look at our experience and take a look and investigate what it is that's going on. Why we are already Buddha, I really think is what this is saying. So you can read along with me. You can read it out loud or not. I'll just read it, and I won't chant it. We usually do a little chanting thing, but I won't do that. We'll just read it. And like I said, if you want to read out loud, that's cool. If you don't, or if you couldn't access the file, I can just listen to my voice. So this is case 1, the record of transmission of light. Shakyamuni Buddha saw the morning star and realized enlightenment. He said, I, together with all beings in the great earth, attain the way. At age 19, Shakyamuni leapt over the palace walls in the dead of night, shaved off his hair. After that, he practiced austerities for 6 years. Subsequently, he sat on the indestructible seat, so immobile that spiders spun webs in his eyebrows and magpies built a nest on top of his head. Reeds grew up between his legs as he sat tranquilly and erect for 6 years. Like I said, maybe not exactly the truth. At the age of 30, on the 8th day of the 12th month, as the morning star appeared, he was suddenly enlightened. I, together with all beings and the great earth, attain the way, are his first lion's roar. From that time on, for 49 years, he did not spend a day alone, but preached the Dharma for the assembly constantly. He was never without a robe or begging bowl. During that time, he preached to the assembly more than 360 times. Later, he transmitted the treasury of the eye of authentic Dharma to light drinker, great practitioner. It has been passed down from light drinker through generation after generation to the present. Indeed, this is the root of the transmission and practice of the authentic Dharma. The behavior of Shakyamuni during his lifetime is a model for the disciples he left behind. Even though he may have had the 32 marks of greatness and the 80 kinds of refinements, he kept the form of an old mendicant, no different from anyone else. Therefore, after his appearance in the world, those who emulate his teaching and conduct model themselves on his deportment, use what he used, and each moment while walking about, standing in place, sitting or lying down, do as the Buddha did. Buddha after Buddha and ancestor after ancestor have simply transmitted this so that the authentic teaching has never been cut off. Even though the method of expression, various stories, parables, metaphors, and explanations was different on more than the 360 meetings over 49 years, they are nothing more than the expression of this simple principle. That is to say, I is not Shakyamuni Buddha. Even Shakyamuni Buddha comes from this I. And it does not only give birth to Shakyamuni Buddha, all beings and the great earth also come from here. Just as when you lift up a net, all the holes are raised, in the same way when Shakyamuni Buddha was enlightened, so too were all beings on earth enlightened. And it was not only all beings on earth that were enlightened, all the Buddhas of the past, present, and future also attained enlightenment. While this is so, do not think of Shakyamuni Buddha as having become enlightened. Do not see Shakyamuni Buddha outside of beings on earth. Even though mountains, rivers, and their myriad forms flourish in great abundance, none are left out of the eye of the Buddha. All of you here are also standing in the Buddha's eye, and it is not that you are standing there. The eye is enfolded within you. The Buddha's eye becomes the fleshly body. It becomes the whole body of each person, standing like an 80,000-foot precipice in each. Therefore, do not think that from the past to the present, there was a bright, clear eye and distinct people. You are the Buddha's eye. If you'd like to come in, you can come in here. If you'd like to attend the intro class, you can go through that door. You bet. Therefore, do not think from the past to the present, there was a bright, clear eye and distinct people. You are the Buddha's eye. The Buddha's eye is the entirety of each of you. What then do you call the principle of enlightenment? Let me ask you, practitioners, is the Buddha enlightened with you, or do you become enlightened with the Buddha? If you say that you become enlightened with the Buddha, or that the Buddha becomes enlightened with you, this is not the Buddha's enlightenment. If you want an intimate understanding of enlightenment, you should get rid of you and Buddha and quickly understand this matter of I. I is the great earth and all beings as and is not I, as the old fellow Shakyamuni Buddha. Examine carefully, deliberate carefully, and clarify this I and. Even if you clarify the meaning of I, but fail to clarify and, you lose the discerning eye. This being so, I and are neither identical nor different. Truthfully, your skin, flesh, bones, and marrow are totally and. The host inside the house is I. It has nothing to do with skin, flesh, bones, and marrow, nor has it anything to do with the 4 elements or the 5 aggregates. Ultimately, if you want to know the undying person in the hut, how could it be apart from this skin bag here and now? While the seasons come and go, and the mountains and rivers and the great earth exchange with time, you should know that this is Buddha raising his eyebrows and blinking his eyes. So it is the unique body revealed in myriad things. It is effacing myriad things and not effacing myriad things. The ancient Master Phayan said, "What effacing or not effacing can you talk about?" Daizang said, "What do you call myriad things?" Therefore, studying from all angles, penetrating in all ways, clarify Buddha's enlightenment and your own enlightenment. Let your answer flow from your heart without borrowing the words of another. This mountain monk would like to say a few humble words about this case. A splendid branch issues forth from the old plum tree. Thorns come forth at the same time. It's one of our longer chants, so thanks for bearing with me on that. I and. Quickly. We have to do this pretty fast. I don't know what the hurry's about. Yeah. I and. We need to clarify both of these things, and we need to carefully discern these things. So what the heck are they talking about? There's a lot of things in there, and I'm not going to go into a lot of it. I'm just going to kind of touch on a little bit on this I and how this relates to us as awakened beings. So I is all beings. I is the source of all that there is. Birds, trees, flowers, the sky, the floor, the camera, me, you, everything. There is nothing that is separate from this I, the entirety. The I is the life in the center of everything. He called it the host inside the house. So I'm thinking of well, actually, what I really thought of, I want to talk about a house, but I can't. What I really can talk about is a puppet. And is how the universe shows up right now, with your karma showing up as you, the cushion's karma showing up as the cushion, my karma showing up as me. The skin, flesh, bones, and marrow are formed and here as and of the puppet that has I in it, that has given it the life. And the I that is in the puppet has all the puppets. This makes no sense to me. I cannot tell you what this means, but they say that we have to figure it out for ourselves. What I can share with you is the experience of the center. They call it the root of the root, the center of ourselves that is kind of beyond what we already are, kind of beyond what we already know. Buddhism talks a lot about, they mentioned the 5 aggregates and the 4 elements, and there's the 12 links of causation, and Buddhism likes their lists. I've got some more lists for later. Each of which of these is trying to describe how we are in the world and why what we think is happening isn't really happening. Why what we think is our skin, flesh, bones, and marrow, or our senses of sight, sound, taste, and touch, or our thinking mind is not exactly what's going on. It's not exactly what's the entirety of reality. And it's this feeling of separateness that makes us suffer so much. We think that we think we lack something. We think we don't really belong. But this root of the root, this source, this finger in the puppet, this host in the house, is the same, is kind of like the binding thing. It's the cause and the effect of all of our lives. I, in this case, is the absolute. It's the non-dual. It's the undifferentiated reality. It's thusness. It's what is right now, all of it. The and of course, these are all just my thoughts about this. The and is the body that comes forth from my parents. My parents were like this, and they had me over in Minneapolis, and I grew up there, and lots of things happened, and boom, I'm here. And I have my anxieties and neuroses and desires and all this stuff, which is not separate from everybody else having their own experiences of themselves. The great earth, everything is of itself complete, and we don't need to do anything to make it so. This and is, well, I put an ellipses here because I ran out of things to talk about with it. It's just and I kind of think of it as and everything. Like this is true, and this is true, and that's true, and this is true, and this is true, and this is happening, and that's happening, and and it's all kind of happening. But and to me, in this case, with I and is the relative, and is this karmic expression, and is the physicalness of Shakyamuni Buddha's statement. I, with all beings and the great earth, attain the way. The I can't be separate from everybody, from all beings, and is the everyday separateness of all beings. And what this means is, and what Keizan was trying to get at, is that if Shakyamuni was enlightened on 12/8, in whatever year that was, then he couldn't have been enlightened unless everybody else was enlightened at the same time. Now, sometime tomorrow, on 12/8 in the morning, probably when I'm still sleeping, but I might be awake, I'm not going to feel a sudden rush of enlightenment because Shakyamuni was enlightened, because it goes throughout all space and time anyway. It really doesn't matter when it happened, because the entirety of everything includes all of everything. I mean, it's just one loaf of bread. That's all we get, is that one loaf of bread. Therefore, studying from all angles, penetrating in all ways, clarify Buddha's enlightenment as your own enlightenment. And his next line here tells me that I can't tell you how to do that. And I can't tell me how to do that either. Let your answer flow from your heart without borrowing the words of another. As I sit here and borrow lots of words from lots of different people, this borrowing of words, this borrowing of what I think awakening and enlightenment is not it. In the Genjo Koan, Dogen says to study the way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. To forget the self is to be actualized by 10,000 things. So studying yourself and knowing yourself, and not in the conventional way of, oh, I know I like chocolate, and I know I don't like asparagus, and I know I'm allergic to strawberries, and I know that whatever, I could go on, I guess, but I shouldn't. That's not the knowing that we're talking about. The knowing that we're talking about is the knowing what the strawberry tastes like, the knowing of what it feels like that my throat closes, the knowing of how I exist in the world through my body, in my bones every day. And it's also a radical acceptance of these things, because some of the things that I know, I really hate. I don't want them. I don't want to know about the times that I've hurt people. I don't want my bad feelings. I don't want all that stuff. But I need to know it. I need to know that this is part of me, and it cannot be excised and still be real, still be me. These things are actually here. knowing like when you are getting up and you know that you're not going to fall over. Somehow we've taken this for granted that when we stand up and walk across the room, we are not going to fall over. But if we examine that very closely, we'll see that there is something in us that knows that I am in balance when I have arisen. I can now walk, and when I do this motion, and if you've ever come here during meditation during the day when we do the slow walking, the kinhin around the edge of the room, if it's the first time you've done it, and I've been doing it now for many years, and if I'm distracted, I'll still like, whoa, I'll kind of fall over. Because when you walk really slow, you get to know in your body that I am not in balance. I am not in line to do this activity. So knowing yourself is important in letting the answer flow from your heart without borrowing from another. The expression of your Buddhahood is yours. And you already have it. And that's kind of one of the points of the talk is I titled it, I'll tell you the title halfway through, right? I titled it, You're a Buddha, Now What? And so first of all, we have to kind of believe that we're a Buddha, and we don't. We think that Buddha, we think enlightenment, we think awakening is something else. And in that first koan that I read, Yantao says, don't you know that the family treasure doesn't come through the gate? The family treasure being awakening, the family treasure being enlightenment, the family treasure being here. And it doesn't come from outside. It doesn't come through the gate. It's already here. We just have to know it. How does something that we already have come from anywhere else? Borrowing some more words, the Song of the Grassroof Hermitage, Shurtao says, the vast inconceivable source can't be faced or turned away from. That source, the I, the thing we think is going to spark the Buddha in us, is already here. It can't be faced or turned away from. What does that mean? Miaozhang was a nun who lived from 1095 to 1170. So she's a Chinese Chan nun. Chan meaning meditation, jhana in Sanskrit, and then Zen in Japanese. She wrote some poems, and I think she expresses how the vast inconceivable source can't be faced or turned away from. How it came to her this way. She said, suddenly I have made contact with the tip of the nose, and my cleverness melts like ice and shatters like tiles. What need for Bodhidharma to have come from the West? What a waste for the second patriarch to have paid his respects. To ask any further about what is this and what is that would signal defeat by a regiment of straw bandits. I think this is her expression of realizing that she is already the Buddha. I've made contact with the tip of the nose. I know it's right there. I know it's here. I know it's not faced or turned away from because I made contact. It's right here. Exciting. And because it's right here, why then do we have all the teachings? Why did this patriarch called Bodhidharma come from India to China to kind of establish what Zen came out to be? What a waste for the second patriarch who cut off his arm to get Bodhidharma's attention to be trained. What a waste. All this stuff, all this rigmarole, all this talk about this and that, and it's already here. What are we doing? What are we doing? If you want to know the undying person in the hut, don't separate from the skin bag here and now. Skin bag. Don't separate from that. Just be with it. It's gross. It's hard. In the Pali Canon, it's been a long time since I read about this. They talk about meditating on blood and pus and feces and all the gross stuff that people are made out of. Ugh. I haven't attained that level yet. I'm not doing it, but it is a practice that people do. But so not separating from this, when we sit in Zazen, when we sit in meditation, it gives us an opportunity to be close to that. It gives us a safe space to kind of poke around and experience things. Before the talk today, I was sitting here. I thought my heart was going to bump out of my chest. I was really nervous. Can't tell you why. I don't always get nervous before talks, but this one I'm like, oh, I've bitten off more than I can chew. There's no way I can do this. And so I was feeling really anxious about it. And I'm like, oh, geez, what does that feel like? Heart's racing and my feet are cold and the blood's pumping. Just being with that skin bag as it's doing all that stuff. It was hard, and I'm glad I had a quiet, safe space to do it in. So now what is kind of, I'm running out of time, but now what is the question that Dogen, that guy that wrote Genjo Koan and that founded the Soto Zen kind of lineage, he was already a monk in the Tendai tradition, already a transmitted priest. And he was like, well, if I'm already Buddha, what the heck am I doing? What am I sitting for? What is this all about? It doesn't make sense. We're just standing around chanting, getting money from the government, telling people to do whatever. This isn't it. What is going on? So he went to China and talked and studied with and met some people that made the light go on for him. And so I think we need to do practices that make the light go on for us. One of the things that Dogen says is that practice is enlightenment. When we sit in meditation and we enact the Buddha, we are enacting ourselves. We're enacting our own Buddha. We're acting the historical Buddha. We're enacting us. It's the same thing. Practice is enlightenment. And because Zen likes lists, we've got lists and lists of practices for you. And there might even be one of them in there that resonates with you and that kind of is something that you can work with. And I put them in numerical order, and there's so many more than just these things. There's the 4 immeasurables, the 6 paramitas, the 6 perfections, the 7 factors of awakening, the 8-fold path, 13 precepts. There's just so many things. But to give you a little flavor of the practices that we can do, that are both the cause and the result of awakening. Buddhas do these practices because they're awake. We sit because we're awake. We're actually in this room because we already thought, oh, it might be good to wake up. And that's what it is to be awake, is to think it's time to wake up. We did it. We're done. I'm done. Good night. Oh, so the immeasurables, the Brahma Viharas or the divine abodes, they're all the same kind of names for the same thing. Boundless friendliness, sympathetic joy, compassion, equanimity. I'm not going to go into these. I'm just going to read them off, and you'll see there's similarities. There's overlap in all these things. And it's not like a stair step, like, oh, I got to do boundless friendliness first before I have sympathetic joy. No, you can have that stuff. Like, oh, my friend got a new job. That's great. I'm going to miss you, but I'm really happy for you. The paramitas are the perfections: generosity, ethics, forbearance, energy, concentration, wisdom. Wisdom sounds pretty good. Want some of that? 7 factors of awakening, which is what they covered during the lectures during Rahatsu this year. Mindfulness, investigation of dharmas, energy again, rapture, calm, samadhi, equanimity again. These sound like pretty good things. When we can cultivate these things, we can work on these things. And because we're already Buddha and we enact these things, we are enacting Buddha. The Eightfold Path. This is part of the 4 Noble Truths that the Buddha put out in one of his first teachings. Beneficial, they say right, like right, but in America we think right and wrong. I'm not into that so much because it's not, I think of beneficial and harmful kind of thing. So I say beneficial view, beneficial intention, action, speech, livelihood, effort, mindfulness, concentration again. Then the 13 precepts, the 3 pure precepts, which is do all that's beneficial, refrain from all that is harmful, act with others always in mind. And then the 10 clear mind precepts, which is, it's a little bit like the 10 commandments, but not, doesn't follow them exactly. And as Buddhists, we think of these as guides, you know, and we're supposed to actually think a lot about these. And how is this showing up in my life? Do not kill. What does that mean? Does that mean I just can't hit people with my car? Or does that mean I should be kinder to bugs or not eat meat? Or, you know, what does that mean? And how does that fit with my life and my karma? Do not steal, do not misuse sexuality, do not lie, do not intoxicate, do not fault others, don't praise yourself, don't be stingy with the Dharma, don't be angry, good luck with that, and do not disparage the triple treasures. So in all these ways, and there's more ways to be a Buddha. I mean, there's brushing your teeth, there's eating some food, there's, God help us, going to the bathroom. You can't not do something that isn't enacting Buddha. There are times where you can do some terrible things. And we do them because we're confused, probably because we're in pain, and we want to share that pain with other people. I know I definitely have been there doing that. And if we realized the Buddhahood of all beings, I think it might change how we interact with other people, interact with other objects. I'm getting ending on time here, and I did want to leave some time for questions. If anybody had questions, comments, if you have comments, doesn't have to be about the talk. It can actually be about anything. Thank you for your kind attention. certainly end there.